Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good day. My name is Herb. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to our Big Book 12-Step Workshop. I'm going to invite you to join me in the set-aside prayer, a prayer for spiritual intervention, an open mind and an open heart. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps in you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and especially you. Please join me in the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. We're looking at column 3. We're looking at our beliefs. I asked you to actually read ahead a little bit. So I'm going to take a look at the material in the big book to give you a tool that will help you deal with the information that you find on the third column. You're looking at your self-esteem, who you are really, who you really believe that you are underneath all of the BS. And that's not belief systems. The BS you tell yourself. You don't know that you don't know, and you can't see that you don't see. Until, in fact, in the set-aside attitude, with the set-aside prayer, with the effort at unpacking this worksheet that I call the column 3 worksheet, you come to really see what you believe about yourself and about others, and even about life itself. And being able to see this begins to give us a sense of humility. And it's that humility that allows us then to take a look at our deep resentments. You see, Bill structured this big book in a phenomenally wonderful way from human behavior and how we learn. On page 65, he said, when we were finished with column 3, well, we're not even close. We've just begun to work on column 3. We're going to be working on column 3 for several weeks. Oh, in a couple of weeks, I'll introduce you to column 4 so that we can, in fact, do some tandem work. But I don't want to overwhelm you, and I want you to get some competency, some skill in dealing with column 3 before we tackle column 4. But we need to tackle column 4 sooner than later so that you get a full sense of the full picture. In between that material on pages 65 and 66 and 67, Bill gives us this phenomenal tool of a prayer practice. But he says when we were finished. So if I were working with you individually, I wouldn't probably be introducing this at this time in the work that you're doing on column 3, although I have been moving that up even on the personal basis. But Bill was introducing it after he suggested that you finish column 3. And he says you considered it carefully, this work that you're doing in column 3. The first thing apparent, I'm on page 66, was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. Who did it? What did they do? And how did it impact you? You're looking at it from a totally unilateral decision from the outside to the inside, from the world to its impact on you. Page 66. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. And that's especially true today in the culture of victimhood that we have. That's my sense of it. I'm reading incredible professional evaluations of human behavior and social behavior over the last 5 years. There's even a book called The Culture of Narcissism. I haven't read it yet. It's on my shelf to read. The usual outcome is that people continue to wrong us and we stayed sore. If nothing changes, nothing changes. That sounds really simplistic, almost stupid, until you sit with it and you embrace it and you see in your own life, when you don't change anything, your attitude or your behavior, nothing else changes in terms of your experience of the world around you and your experience of yourself. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. Many of you have already asked the question. I mean, you're wonderfully engaged. You're following the bouncing ball of suggestions and the readings, and you're thinking about it. It doesn't get any better than that from my standpoint as a facilitator. You're actually engaged in thinking about it and asking these questions like, well, I realize that I'm pissed at myself. Do I put myself on the list? And I go, yes, you do, because here Bill endorses it in the big book. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. A synonym would be regret. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. Selfishness and self-centeredness, remember that little treatise on pages 60 to 62? And if you don't, reread it. It could be a meditation on a daily basis for a month. While we're doing this work, the fourth step is actually the first step in writing. As in war, the victim only seemed, notice, italics, to win. It was a delusion. Our moments of triumph are short-lived. Now he's going to get into he's warmed us up. This is his literary style. He gives us a warming up period. Then he dives deeply into the subject matter, the meat and potatoes. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentments. Okay, he's transitioned from the large list that you have. It's somewhat generic and it's somewhat specific, but it's a large list. Whether it's 5 or 50 or 500, in your relative life, it's a large list because you may not have made one recently or ever. But now he's going to qualify it by saying, okay, on that list, not everything is deep. Not everything is a 4,000-pound white shark. Some of it's a 3-pound salmon and a 1-pound trout, and some are sardines. Because you're irritated and it is plain that a life that which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. It's clear after you do that third column, even making the list, to the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, maintenance and growth, that's what happens in step 10. We grow in understanding and effectiveness. If you haven't read it recently, reread it, pages 84 and 85. We've entered the world of the spirit. Our task now is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. The internal integrity of this book is astounding. Whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience. This business of resentment is infinitely grave. That's not poetry. And he's going to confirm that it's not poetry with the next sentence. We found that it is fatal. Yeah, it'll put you in the grave. And here's the reason. For when harboring such feelings, these anger feelings, these resentment feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. There's the metaphor. The deep down inside of us, we have a relationship with sunlight. But what blocks the sunlight are the clouds. In this metaphor, the clouds are resentment. The clouds are fear. The clouds are our dishonesty, our secrets. And it shuts us off from the sunlight, and therefore we're living in the darkness. The insanity of alcohol returns. That's what Bill means by obsession and insanity. And that's what he also means by not cured. Our minds are always vulnerable unless they're in the protective custody of a relationship with the Spirit, behind the spiritual shield. Step 2, came to believe, restored us to sanity, protection from the obsession. And if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable by a lack of diligence with regard to our spiritual life, 10, 11, and 12, then the spiritual shield wears thin and or gets cracks in it, allowing for the vulnerability to the obsession. And we drink again, we use again, we engage in we relapse. And with us, to drink is to die, to relapse is to die. Die spiritually, and then eventually die physically. It's not speculation. In 1939, it might have been somewhat, but today it's not, with the evidence we have, medical evidence of emotions out of control and the chaos it creates in our physical and psychological lives. So he goes on, page 66. If we were to live, notice, not deal effectively with our addiction, that's not what he's talking about. If we are to live, meaning manage our lives on a reasonable basis, that's my interpretation. If we are to live, we had to be free of anger. Free of anger. The grouch, synonym for resentment. Brainstorm, synonym for resentment. Here we're not talking about brainstorm in the boardroom where we're looking for creative ideas, brainstorming. We're talking about a sandstorm, like you see in the Sahara, that kills everything in its approach. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men. Take a look at that sentence. Dubious luxury of normal people. Dubious, meaning it's doubtful. Luxury, meaning it's not necessary. Normal, nobody on this call. You wouldn't be here if you're normal. You might be abstinent and you might be spiritually fit. And it might be decades long. But you're not normal. If you're in any phase, you've been an addict. It means you're not normal and you will never be normal. Read page 30. We had to concede to our innermost self the delusion that we are like other people or presently may, I'm quoting, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. This fourth step is the smashing of the false self, the smashing of the ego, the disintegration of the persona, the mask, the wall that we built as a survival mechanism, not realizing the entire structure has boomerang now, and instead of a wall that protects us, it's become a prison. Page 66. We turn back to the list. So again, now he's warming us up to take a look at the list. For it holds the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We've looked at it from who did what to me and how did it impact me. And we've looked at it throughout our universal life, our historical life. But now he's saying, I want you to take a look at the deep ones. So that's part of an assignment going forward for next week. Look at your list and either check off or make a separate list of the deep ones. On a list of 85 resentments, I had 8 that were deep. My father, my mother, my sister, my wife, and 4 bosses. Deep resentments, meaning they were not superficial. They had a volcanic rage to them. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us, column 1 and column 2. In that state, the wrongdoings of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill, column 3. Fancied or real. That's not a throwaway line. What does it mean? Did it actually happen? The event itself. Oh, your perception and your feelings are real. Your reaction is real. But did it have any basis in reality? We'll be looking at that in 4th column. I take this phrase into the 4th column. I found 5% of the resentments that I had no basis in actual reality. Somehow I had just made it up. It's not important to know why or how. It is important to know that it was a complete fantasy, fancied or real. How could we escape? We saw that resentments must be mastered, but how? Here's the key to this entire 2 pages. Right here, this next line, pay attention. We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. Well, what's he trying to tell us here? Oh, no. What's he actually telling us? He's not trying. He's telling us we're as powerless over our resentments in terms of removing them as we are in managing our addiction. There's no other interpretation. We could not wish them away, these deep resentments, any more than we could wish away our addiction. And the whole concept of step 1, body, mind, and spirit, is that we have no choice. In deep resentments, we have no choice. So how does he conclude step 1? He said we have to have God's help. How does he conclude this statement? We need to have God's help. This is our course. We realized that people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Before we get God's help, we need to have a changed attitude. Oh, they're not 4-letter words. They're spiritually sick. I can take the high road with that and look down on those wretched souls. They're spiritually sick, don't you know? Oh, Bill's not going to let us get away with that, but he knows us very well. Page 67. Though we did not like their symptoms, columns 1 and 2, and the way these disturbed us, column 3, they, like ourselves, are sick too. Uh-oh, they're sick. I'm just like them. I'm abnormal. I'm sick too. I don't see quite right. There's something quite not right with me, to use the phrases from one of my Southern friends. That boy is not quite right. Page 67. Now he gets to the heart of the matter, the bullseye. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. Okay, so you already know, because I've pointed it out many times, anytime the book suggests that you talk to God, it's suggesting prayer. We ask God. Now, here's the question. It's a serious question. I want to know if you heard this correctly, if it's the first time you're hearing it. If you've heard me unpack it before, then you might remember what Bill intended with this sentence. But I'm asking you, who is he saying that we pray for? If I were physically in a room with you, 75 to 80% of you would say, oh, we're praying for the other person. And then I would pause, and then I would say in the silence of the pause, no, you're wrong. That's not what it says. Let's read it again. We ask God to help us. Oh, I'm asking God to intervene with me so that I am given freedom from this resentment. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. God, please change my attitude, my perspective, my feelings, my behavior. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, this is a sick person. How can I be helpful? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. The next paragraph supplements this. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. You know how mostly compassionate you are when you walk into a hospital room. No matter what your relationship is with the person, there's a certain humility and a certain graciousness that comes about us, a certain even forgiveness. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. Notice how Bill bangs on that drum throughout the book. To be useful, to be helpful. This is our destiny. This is our purpose. This is who we are. This is our human nature. And this is the antidote to our addiction and our selfishness. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So look at the slide now. Identify and list the people that you have a deep resentment for. It might be only one, or you may have none, because whatever your history is, or maybe the work that you've done, you may not have any. But if you do have a deep resentment, identify it, put it on a separate list, and begin this prayer practice. This man asked me to create a prayer that I would pray on a daily basis from the words in the big book on pages 66 and 67. He said, how free do you want to be? Pray specifically for the freedom from this resentment of this person. I had 8 people. I prayed 8 prayers. Every day for 3 months, I prayed 8 prayers. 1 prayer for the removal of each of the resentments for each of those 8 people. After about 3 months, it was clear when I prayed the prayer that morning, I didn't have any anger. I didn't have any negative valence or resentment toward that person. It was shocking. The first time in my life I'd been free. I continued to pray for each of the 7. And then it became 6, and then it became 5, like snow melting in the spring. Now, here's the really interesting story from my standpoint. It's interesting. I hope it confirms the power of this process to you. In 1988, I had 85 resentments. I did not get 2 things from that step work. I did not get the expanded 3rd column, and I did not get this information concerning the prayer practice. 3 years later, I did the steps again, and when I came to the resentment inventory, I had the same 85 resentments. Seriously, there was not a change. I had done the 4th step, I had done the 5th step, 6 and 7. I had done the 8th and 9th. I had made all my amends. And yet all of those deep resentments were still on my list. The long list of 85 and the deep resentments of 8. I learned about the third column this second time through the work in 1991. I learned about this prayer practice at the same time. I engaged in this prayer practice. After about 6 months, all of them had been removed. And 3 years later, when I did an inventory, not one of those 85, not one of those 8 were on my step 4 resentment list. I had others because I was still working out the wrinkles in my personality. I mean, the big ones. I still have wrinkles, but I don't have big ones anymore, at least by my standards. Now, I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. I did the step work very effectively and had a powerful, deep, life-changing experience in 1988. But in 1991, I still had every one of those resentments. When I adopted this recommendation from the big book and the interpretation the man gave it to me, which I'm giving to you, 3 years later, I had none of them. You want to be free of your resentments? You might try this. What does the prayer look like? It's changed. Last year, I changed it again. I made it bullet point. I cleaned up the wording a little bit. It's my wording. Most of it comes from the big book, but some of it's my own, or some of it's been given to me by you and people like you who have been in my workshop. God, Bob, like me, is a spiritually sick person. Please help me to show Bob tolerance, compassion, and patience. Release me from being angry. Notice I'm praying for myself. I'm not praying for Bob. I have the anger about Bob, but it's my anger. I need surgery. I need soul surgery. I need the divine healer, the divine surgeon to enter in to my soul and my heart and my emotions and my memory, to remove all of this cancerous gunk. Enable me to release this resentment. Release is the key term to forgiveness. Look it up in the dictionary. My dictionary said forgiveness is a decision to release them. Remove this resentment, a direct request. Show me how I can be kind and tolerant to Bob. Bring me to accept reality as it is. That's come out of my work in emotional sobriety. And show me how I can be helpful to Bob. And then I always add to my prayer, thy will be done. I'm not going to tell God what to do. I'm raising my own consciousness and visibility, what I would like to happen, but I don't know whether or how it's the right thing. So with my free will, I pray thy will be done because I want to be in harmony. I want to be in alignment. Don't wait. That's why I bring it in early into the process. Don't wait. Why wait? You can be free sooner than later. Whether you believe in what I said or believe that it'll work for you doesn't make any difference. 100% of the people who have adopted this practice and have come back to me and told me their experience, 100% have said that it works. Some relatively quickly, some many years later. I'm not predicting it'll happen this year. I'm not predicting that it'll happen by Sunday. I am predicting, based on my experience, that the resentment will be diminished and will be removed eventually. Now, of course, we're going to continue doing this resentment work. We're going to finish the third column. We're going to move on to the fourth column. Eventually, you're going to do a fifth step. Eventually, you're going to finish your ninth step. And someplace in there, I believe you'll find the freedom that the 9-step promises talk about finding a new freedom. Let's have a discussion now about anything I've commented on, any question or concern or comment, or your own experience with what I've just brought to your attention from the Big Book suggestions on 66 and 67. But also, let's do some work on column 3, because I would like very much for you to share your experience, your actual experience with doing the column, or doing a little bit of it and getting kind of stuck with it and not being able to get too far, or just not feeling too clear about what you did, and you would either like confirmation or clarity or some help to be unstuck.
So I just have one question tonight. When you talk about deep resentments, are you talking about reoccurring resentments that are on the list? Like, how are we able to identify a deep resentment?
It's totally your choice. It's all relative to you. Somebody else might not consider it deep, or some people might consider some of your shallow resentments deep resentments, and you don't. So it's your choice. What do you consider to be deep? My father was a clear example. I had this rage in me whenever I thought about him, like volcanic red hot lava. All right. And it was the kind of the same, not quite as intense, with all the bosses I ever had. Now, I know from psychology there's a relationship there. Of course, the way I was treated by my father is my relationship and attitude toward anybody that I see as an authority figure. But that's neither here nor there, but it's an insight that really helped me. So it's your choice. And today it will be a deep resentment. And as it moves off of the register by doing this work, you may be able to then see there are others that weren't quite a 10 on a scale of 10, but now that the 10 is gone, you can see the 8. Yeah, great question. No, they're all really good questions to clarify. And you're asking questions that other people learn from also. Thank you so much.
I was wondering if I could read my page.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Consider when I resent Rick for being such a mean, illogical man and a terrible father to our son. Did it hurt, threaten, or interfere with my happiness and mothering?
Yep.
Self-esteem. What is my deep belief about who I am? I'm kind, caring, loving, insecure, self-doubting, somewhat naive, too trusting.
All right. So you're giving me an opportunity here. It's never negative.
Okay.
It's never negative. Just trust me, even though you don't believe it, and even though you feel it deeply, as I know you do, don't put any negatives about yourself there. All right, because you're talking about a resentment towards somebody who isn't treating you the way you want to be expected, and you don't have to excuse them or yourself.
Okay, you know what? Then I'll read next time, because I think I blame myself a lot for making a choice that was such a huge, bad, disastrous choice. So, yeah, I beat myself up quite a bit in this.
What did you say in pride? The number 2.
Okay, in pride, I said, how do I want others to see me being treated? I put myself on a stage with another person. Imagine relevant audience watching. Others should see Rick treating me kindly as the mother of his child and someone who loved him at one time.
All right, it's a bit mild. It's timid. Mm-hmm. I asked you to be outrageous. So you have an audience and you have a real opportunity here in your imagination. The audience is maybe your family or friends, and they're watching you and Rick on a stage. And in your fantasy, how would you like them to see Rick treating you.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God, the queen of my household,
Yeah.
the cherish of my heart, the mother of my children, the golden gift of the era. I'm now being outrageous.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. That makes much more sense, and that would have been nice, but
Well,
I
no,
think even this was a stretch for
that's why Disney was so successful. They plugged into fantasies.
right. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take
that
another.
was not a compliment, by the way, of Disney, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll take another swipe at all this
Good.
and be more kind to myself.
Well, it's not about being kind. It's about not being negative, number one. And you're getting underneath here. So this is a wonderful teaching moment for everybody. You're getting underneath here to see why you're reacting with anger to the way you're being treated, because there's something in you that believes you're worthy of being treated better than that. Even though you don't feel it sometimes and you don't see it sometimes, but underneath, that's where the anger comes from.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I mean, just hearing you, looking at you, and I'm confident that underneath there, you really feel like you're a fairly worthwhile woman, and you've got some real gifts and some talents, and you're warm. If only the people and the circumstances would allow you to manifest. What do you think?
Well, I think that I take too much.
Meaning?
Meaning, if someone treats me badly, my mother always used to say, honey's more attractive than vinegar or whatever. So I'm always nice when I shouldn't be.
You know what they call that in technical language? Codependent.
Yeah, I'm codependent. So
because if I'm always nice, they will like me. Right. And eventually I'll get what I want. How's that working for you?
It doesn't.
No, of course not. It never does. Because people will take advantage of you and walk all over you.
I know. It's kind of my nature, though.
No, it isn't. No, sorry. Sorry, it's not. Okay. But you believe it. No, it's your conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
Your mother did a great job.
Oh, I had to be. I mean, she was an alcoholic and crazy, and I had to be.
There you go. Have you ever read a book on children raised in a dysfunctional home?
Not really.
A book that I read the first time in the mid-'80s was Adult Children of Alcoholic Syndrome.
Okay.
By Kritzberg, Kritzberg, I believe, or Burg. I've reread it recently. It's just really good. And I was so shocked that they could describe my personality in an institutional language. Yep.
Yeah, probably me too.
Oh, I have no doubt about it. That's why I'm recommending it. Okay, because when you get the information, it's kind of like, oh, this isn't my nature. This is what I was trained to be.
Had to.
Yeah, well, let's just not go there either, because you're now not 6 years old.
No.
You're not 18 years old.
No.
Right. So you don't have to, but you don't know any better at this point.
Right.
Yeah. And we don't change until we know better.
Right. Well, I'm hoping through this exercise, I'm very excited about it, and so grateful to you.
You're on it. That's why, yes. So I look forward to, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Why do you say the fourth step is the first step in writing? I've been kind of trying to rack my brain, and I'm coming up with a lot.
Because in the first step, typically we don't do a lot of writing, other than what we do here with regard to our personal experience with it. But as you now do the fourth step in writing, the looking at resentments, looking at fear, looking at sex, looking at secrets, looking at dishonesty, we can just see how powerless we really are.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, because nobody wants to live the way we have lived if they were conscious.
No.
No. And so the thing is, we were not conscious.
No, self-medicated.
Yes, exactly right. If either from a substance or from a process or from some type of an emotional reaction. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was noticing that last part too. Like I've been noticing that like all of the stuff I brought, the withdrawal and the victimhood and these smoldering resentments were really kind of just an emotional self-medicating.
It's our way of defending ourselves.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I read my column 3?
Please.
Okay, this is when I resent my brother for not visiting me when he comes to California and visiting friends instead. Does it hurt, threaten, or interfere with my self-esteem? I did this one wrong too, so I'm going to rephrase it. I am lovable and deserve respect. My fear is that nobody loves me and that I'm a laughing stock and that my family likes him more than me.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. There's just your reaction. What did you write for pride?
Others should see Rob treating me as a friend, a brother, and someone who is respected.
All right. So embedded in that is that you think you're a good friend. So that could be, yeah, well, there you go. You didn't miss a beat. In your self-esteem, you could have said, and I'm the best friend he could have. See, I'm saying expand it now. Be stretched.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a great brother to him. So
there you go. There you go. All right. And your fear is?
That he doesn't respect me and that he likes, and that my friends and family like him more than me.
All right. Ambition. What do you want?
I want to have a brother that engages with me and visits me and spends time with me.
And your fear?
I will die alone.
And your security. What do you need and why?
I need connection with my family and love so that I feel safe and that I belong.
And fear?
I will die alone and broke with no one to care for me.
Yeah. Personal relations?
I expect to be included, visited, prioritized, and loved, and my company to be sought after.
And your fear?
I'm a low priority and disposable.
Wow. You see, you're using lots of wonderful words here. And I'm saying that certainly as a compliment to you, but as a teaching moment to everybody else. Try not to get into the rut of repeating words. Try to use new words like that. I feel disposable. That's a great line. Great line of a great insight. Yeah. All right. Then the next one I think is Jack.
Yeah. A real man should always be strong, independent, capable, and successful. And my fear is I am weak and insignificant.
Yeah. All right. And how about women?
Oh, I didn't write one because it's just me and my brother.
All right, do it just spontaneously here. What's your belief about women in friendship?
Women should be supportive, listening, engaging, and caring.
And your fear is?
I am not worthy to be listened to.
What'd you think?
What did I think?
Just now, what did you experience?
It was embarrassing.
Yes, sir. So you might want to fill that one out that way. And I'm encouraging other people, even though the resentment is to deal with one gender or the other, fill it out with the other one in mind, because it might reveal something like it just did to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Pocketbook.
Nothing should interfere with, affect, or lessen my ability to feel secure in my own family.
And your fear?
My family doesn't love me.
So as you wrote it out, you spent some wonderful time getting real clear, by the way. And as now you read it out, what's your overall experience?
it feels vulnerable, and it feels embarrassing to share it out loud in front of 148 people.
Exactly.
It also feels good because I feel like I'm still pinpointing some of my the weakness in my mind and discipline about the way I think. Like you said, I don't know that really a lot of this is true. Just because they don't love me the way that I expect to be loved doesn't mean that they don't love me.
That's what we're going to look at in column 4. That's right.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of all of this? That's correct.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's also sort of releasing in the sense that I can start to buffer myself against these type of thoughts.
Yeah, deal with reality and adjust to reality. Yeah. There was something I was going to, be very clear, everybody, that the third column is about the beliefs. So when you come to the end of doing it, look back on it and say, so what does it reveal to me about beliefs that I have about myself, about others, and about life itself? Those are the 3 things: a belief about myself, a belief about other people, and a belief about life itself. That's what is revealed in all of that. But you might not get it just by doing one, but you do 3 to 10 of these with that question in your mind, you're going to have a big experience, I believe.
Hi, Herb. I just wanted to share my experience with the resentment prayer that you have recommended. And I just recently, 6 months ago, I added it to my phone, so it's available to me because my phone's always there. And I'm in a closed group. There's 19 of us. It's a volunteer organization, not recovery people. You know, it's like out there practicing these principles in all my affairs. This was my reason for signing up for this service. And there's this one man in there who just, I just want to smack him half the time. So I say this resentment prayer. The first time I pulled it out, and I use his name, I say it. And now I'm kind of, when I know I'm going to be around him, I say it before I'm even in a meeting with him. And oh my gosh, it's like a miracle drug. I mean,
it's magic, isn't it?
It's magic. He still bugs, I still think I think he's I can really actually see him as a spiritually sick person pretending to be healthy and wise. I mean, he's so pretending in his actions.
Yep.
And I have empathy and compassion for him now. And he's certainly not pushing my buttons.
There you go.
So this is my newest best friend, this resentment prayer. I just can't say enough about it. Thank you.
Thank you for the reinforcement of that, because people need to hear it from other people also, that they've had that experience of success.
Yeah. I mean, I used to say, bless them, change me. Bless them, change me. And I'd say, yeah, right. It's like this was really magical, and I'm really grateful for it. So thanks.
So just a quick question. So, there's the resentment prayer in the story, Freedom from Bondage, I think it's called, where you pray for a couple of weeks for the health.
Yeah, but you're praying for somebody else.
Yeah. So I assume that you don't go for that prayer.
Well, no. What I said when it was talked about before is that that's a wonderful spiritual practice to pray for other people. Why not? That's a great practice. All I'm saying is it's not in the big book. It's in a story, but that's not the big book. The stories can come and the stories can go. They're wonderful stories. And I totally support praying for other people. But what I taught tonight was what the big book says is an effective tool to get rid of the resentment in ourselves.
Right. Well, but supposedly that, prayer is also
fine, but we're not teaching the stories.
Okay.
We're teaching
You know, that's
we're
yeah.
teaching what Bill Wilson wanted us to
No,
know,
I like that.
the
I like
effective
that.
steps, right?
I like that. It's just for all these years now. Like my sponsor's always like, okay, do the resentment prayer for that person.
Right,
You
yeah,
know?
because people don't know the first 164 pages. That's why. That's just a confirmation of the ignorance in the rooms of 12-step, quite frankly.
No, that's fine. I just
Oh,
wanted to ask you what you
okay.
thought about that.
Now you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm working on a resentment regarding my mother.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm having difficulty when it comes to, is it really that big of a deal? And should I even care?
Well, when you say, should I even care, what is that? You mean care about what?
My mother. It's, should
No, I could have interpreted it.
Yeah.
Should I care about whether it's important enough to do?
I don't know, because as we've been going over this last couple of weeks, these resentments and getting clear of them, definitely important enough to do. But the one concerning my mother, you know, it's a general overarching of the lack of having a mother during the
Okay,
childhood years.
but we're not talking about your mother, are we?
No, we are talking about me. Yes.
Yeah, and what are we talking about you? Your resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important because Bill said that's the cloud to the sunlight of the spirit.
So even if in my naivete of less than a year in recovery, I'm like, I accept the situation my mother had growing up. She had no idea
So
how
what?
to raise a child.
What? Did that change the intensity of your resentment?
Honestly, it did.
Oh, well,
gave
good. But it's important enough that we're talking about it. So why are you resisting doing it? It would have taken 15 minutes to do it, and we've spent 5 minutes already talking about it.
Well, I did jot it down
Oh,
prior.
well, how about reading it then? Let's try it.
Okie dokie, Herb, since you asked so nicely. All right.
You get in the ring, and I invite you to box.
So column 3, when I resent my mother for her poor job raising me, didn't really put anything for self-esteem or pride.
No, you need to. No. You need to. That's the key. I said that's the key. Self-esteem. Now, you didn't put anything there. Did you put something in pride?
Negative.
Well, those are the two keys.
Two big ones, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you avoiding here?
Clearly a lot.
Yeah, actually, more clearly to me than to you, probably.
Yeah. You know, it's
so,
and I'm not going to take up everybody's time trying to figure it out in the here and now.
But now, see, we've actually really, you've had an experience of an answer to the question that you started off our conversation with.
Yeah, this is big enough for something that I actually have to rip it apart, get to the ugly, sticky things, and deal with it.
You want to analyze it. You don't need the drama words, rip it apart. You're just going to analyze it, and you're going to take a look and see what's the truth there, because there's obviously quite a bit of truth that you don't want to look at. Maybe.
Once we have this truth, do we have to even bring it up with this other person?
Well, no, of course not. Why would you do that?
I guess, well, much like in what is this? Number 6, that a real woman is worthy of being protected, and that a real man is sacrificing in the name of the betterment of a female, as this regards to.
Yeah, what does that have to do with talking to your mother?
This was her grooming of me, which I am understanding of, or at least getting to the point of trying to understand it. And yet I still have this feeling that I don't wish to bring any static to my mother.
Well, then don't.
Because,
Well, then don't.
yeah.
Why are you even thinking about bringing static to your mother? This has nothing to do with your mother. This has everything to do with you.
I guess in the idea of clearing a resentment,
You'll clear them without engaging your mother. You don't make your problems her problems.
Hearing that I don't have to talk to my mother to take care of my problem is actually very, very good news. And that is
Okay.
that alone.
All right.
Ooh, all
Good.
right.
Yeah.
That I can work with. That makes all of this.
So maybe that was the block.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Herb,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Sooner than later, you're bringing this one to us so that we can, in fact, navigate through it with you. All right.
All right. Thank you, Herb.
No, wonderful work. Thanks for hanging in there and being really honest with yourself. That was great.
I did a column 3, but I don't really have people. I have like organizations.
All right.
And so I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, but
You probably are, but that's the point of your bringing it to our attention. Why don't you read what you wrote on an institution or organization?
okay, thank you. When I resent those who control social media channels
Yep.
for censoring information based on their own agendas, beliefs.
All right. Who are you? Self-esteem.
I am intelligent enough to make up my own mind.
And what's your fear?
They will unduly influence others.
All right. Yep. No right or wrong answer. Nice and clear. What's your pride there?
Others see social media controllers treating me as intelligent, democratic, and respected.
Nice. And what's your fear?
People will not listen or believe what I have to say.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be different.
You're very clear. All right. We don't have to editorialize on it. You're actually doing quite a clear job and a healthy job. All right. So don't judge it. Just continue doing what you're doing. What about ambition? What do you want?
I want social media controllers to allow free speech.
And your fear is?
This will not happen, and people will become more entrenched in the beliefs
All right.
propagated.
Yep. Security. What do you need and why?
I need social media controllers to open up their platforms to differing viewpoints.
Why?
Because freedom of speech is a constitutional right.
All right. And your fear?
They will continue violating the Constitution and suffer no consequences.
All right. You're very clear. Number 5, personal relations.
I expect social media controllers to act objectively.
Yes. Yeah. Professionals in public responsibility should be fair. Right. Exactly. And what's your fear?
Well, that they will not do so
Right.
and continue to unfairly influence others.
Exactly. They'll be self-centered. Oh my. Imagine that. Yeah. Number 6, gender relations.
Well, I have the same for a man and a woman.
All right. Read what you wrote.
A real man should always uphold the Constitution and the freedoms it protects.
All right. And your fear?
People will not care, and we will lose our freedoms.
All right. And pocketbook?
Nothing should interfere with, affect, or lessen my sense of emotional and physical security.
All right. And your fear?
I fear I shall continue to feel our freedoms are at risk.
All right. So as you wrote it out, very clear, by the way, and as you read it out, what's your experience with now connecting to your beliefs? Did you see anything that was either confirming or challenging?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, you do more than one, and you might try it on some people. Yeah, It's easy to stay at an emotional distance from organizations, although it's possible to get very emotional about it, but it is more probable when you get involved with people. So don't be adverse to doing something that might even be a minor one for you, an irritation or an annoyance, just to see if you can surface something that might give you some insight to the beliefs that you hold, so that when you look at it, you can say, yeah, that's one I want to hold, or no, that's a surprise. I didn't know I had that one.
I don't know, would a belief be that I feel very strongly about our democracy and our freedoms?
Yeah, no, that's very clear in what you said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's nobody that has any doubt about that on this call.
Oh, okay, thank you. You know, speaking of people, I did one, but I put it as most, if not all people. That's probably not so good, huh?
I'm not sure what you're just trying to tell me.
Well, I believe most people are selfish and rude.
So does the big book.
Oh, okay.
Well, read page 62.
Okay.
Selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of our problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's the human condition. I'll broaden it. Bill doesn't say it as clearly as I say. He implies it in many places, but I'm going to say it as clearly. I think it is the human condition. 100% of humans are self-centered. Now, some people mature out of it to the extent that they're more civilized and integrated into society than certainly the addicts.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate your feedback about, I'll try to do a person.
I recommend that, and see what happens, and then you're welcome to read that to us for clarification and or confirmation.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So it says, God, please show me the truth about aging. I resent aging for making me fatter, less desirable, and less capable.
All right.
My self-esteem. I am eternally youthful. I am carefree, lithe, untouched by time, save for wisdom, which grows deeper and broader each year.
Wonderful.
And
Fear.
go ahead.
And your fear.
My fear is I'm past my prime. It's all downhill, and I'll be unable to care for myself.
All right. Pride.
Pride. Others should see aging treating me as exempt, as special, making me wiser, but still more attractive, barely touching my physical form. And my fear is that I am old, ugly, fat, and unable to care for myself.
All right. All right. Ambition.
I want time or aging to stop or move almost imperceptibly. And my fear is that it's speeding up and I'm losing it faster than ever. It does feel like it's speeding up, by the way, it really does. For security, I need aging to spare me so that I can stay independent and have no needs. And my fear is that I'll be ravaged physically and mentally. I'm paying the piper for a life ill spent, and that I'll die on the streets or in state care.
All right. It's pretty black and white, but it's just fine. You're using good stretch words, and it's wonderful. Okay. Yep.
So personal relationship, I expect aging to spare those with good genes and those who work with it, especially in recovery. And my fear is that I get no credit for good behavior and I'm a ticking time bomb.
All right.
A real man is always fit, able to take care of himself, has planned for the future, provides for his family, and is attractive to self-sufficient women. And my fear is that I'm not attractive to those I find attractive. And then a real woman should always be one step ahead of the game. She exercises foresight to make up for any physical disadvantages. And my fear is that I blew it.
All right. Yep.
And then for pocketbook, nothing should interfere with my ability to enjoy life as I like and call my own shots. And then my fear is that there's not enough money or fitness for me to survive as an elder.
Okay. All right. Well, you're going to have some fun with the fourth column, that's for sure. But you did a really nice, clean, clear job there. And so as you wrote it out and now as you spoke it out, what's your experience about beliefs?
My belief about myself, I believe these things. And I
Didn't see anything that was possibly outside the realm of reality and given to fantasy in several of your statements?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is nuts. I am certifiable, and this is what I'm saying.
I was trying to be kind.
Bewildered. What? Well, don't tell anyone. I'm passing right now, but I've been through this work exhaustively.
Mhm.
As we do when we sign on, when we're desperate and we find the person who can help us.
Right.
And it's a little embarrassing. It's very embarrassing for a woman of my stature, my years, to still be thinking this way, Herb. It's insane. It's bonkers.
Yeah. Well, good that you're having the experience, because a lot of people just live in it thinking it's real. I mean, really, I thought I was a Renaissance man. 1988, and I did this work and I found out I was a Neanderthal.
Yeah.
It was like so embarrassing. I'm 48 years old at that time. All right. So I'm 81 now, just turned 81. And I can say every decade has gotten better. Now, this may be the last decade I can say that. Yeah, you got it. That's right.
Oh, I got it.
But I don't want to stop aging.
Yeah.
All right. Because the diploma is my death certificate.
Yeah.
I'm having too much fun.
Well, that's clear. You're the best advertisement for this work. Really, you are.
That's it. Well, I've enjoyed. Thank you very much.
Hi there. So I worked with my step guide for 45 minutes on this resentment with my former husband, Frank. And I was really, really shocked when I got to the bottom, and I had no idea I had this belief, but this is embarrassing, truly. But I believe that men, like in a family situation, men should listen to women, and that women knows what's best for the family. And I had no idea I thought that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And no, it's very, I can hear it. It was very real for you. And now you're seeing that it might not have been quite accurate.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, what I really resented was the fact he had a stroke. Not so much that he didn't take care of his health, but the fact that that's the real resentment. And really the reason is because it makes me feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And I think I'm this.
God bless him, he had a stroke, but that was pretty inconvenient to you. Once you've seen the truth, it would take an awful lot for you not to unsee it.
Yeah.
So you've now begun a process of freedom. Just think in the terms of yes, it's embarrassing, as many people have said. Yes, it's very embarrassing, and sometimes it's very painful. But on the other side of it is the freedom that every one of us is looking for, and that I promise you'll experience. And what you confirmed, though, indirectly, was I did this work last week. I was on the phone with Herb, and then I spent 45 minutes with my sponsor grinding it out. And then I had an experience. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just have a couple quick questions. I was doing a worksheet, and this is in regards to the sex relations and the pocketbook. So those were the two questions. So with the sex relationships, when I was doing a resentment against my mother, it was hard to think of like how do I, it was like all mothers and then all children, or is it
Yes.
more specifically
No.
men and women?
The answer is yes. Thank you for, because I don't think I've explored this with the sufficient detail. So it's generic all mothers, generic all fathers, generic all women, generic all husbands, or in the workplace, male bosses, female bosses, male coworkers, female coworkers. Yes, put do the analysis on the gender in the specific genre that you're exploring. So if you're really pissed at your father and you get to this, well, what about a real man? Well, what about a real father? Well, what about a real husband? Those are all three very different prototypes that you might have some beliefs about. And it will be very productive to you to dive deeply into that, to unpack what are my beliefs about each of those roles. And it might be quite different in each case.
Okay. Yeah, because I had the similar issue with my spouse. Is it like women outside of the relationship, or is it all wives?
First, it's all wives. That,
Okay.
to answer your question very directly, it's the generic. When God created the mold wife, this is what the perfect wife was, the model.
Okay.
That's what
Awesome.
I'm measuring my wife against, the 100% criteria.
And yeah, with the, I guess with the mother one, the male, like there's no male mother.
No, but there's the father.
Oh, so it's in, okay, the father, okay. So I would, the father in relationship to the, not the child, because something did come up when I was doing it, was that all men are children. And so that was, you know, but it was, I couldn't get out of the mindset of like mother-child relationship.
I 100%, but I'm so glad that you brought it up, because it's an oversight on my part for not having expanded it the way now I have, prompted by your question. So if you're having a unpacking third column with your mother, then when you get to the gender relationships, then take a look at, well, what's an ideal father? Or what's an ideal man? Or what's an ideal husband? Those are three very impactful exercises that will open up your understanding of what's in your head about the criteria, the lens through which you filter the specific husbands and fathers and etc.
And then, yeah, with my second question with the pocketbook, your example with Bob was so great, but it had to do with the financial side of things. And I guess I got lost with, you know, for example, emotional security, well-being.
Well, in that case, it was about money, and but also if it wasn't anything about money, it could have been about power or prestige or control or authority. I mean, those were all involved there as value propositions.
Okay, so it's not necessarily like directly affecting my bank account or my pocketbook.
It may
could
not
be
be directly connected to money itself. That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And be free, be open. Don't be rigid. Don't be controlled by the words and or the worksheet. Open yourself up to being creative, because this is a tool to help you, to facilitate you penetrating your unconscious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's it for me. Thank you so much.
That's a lot. It was very helpful. Thank you for your question. All right. What's your resentment?
This one's for my boss.
All right.
But I love her. I think she's great.
You don't have to
Qualify.
Have to qualify it or put it in an environment where you're still a good person.
It's nice. It was nice.
And what's the resentment?
When I resent Lee for misremembering the facts in a way that falls contrary to my favor? What is my deep belief about who I am? I am a picture of you're welcome. The model employee, a true gift to the company, a sponge of your teaching, and the star of the team.
Nice, very nice. I love it when people get creative with the words and the images. So, yep, because I think it helps you kind of like get into it more. So go ahead. Is there more on the self-esteem, or what's your fear?
That was it. My fear was the company might survive without me.
Yes. All right. Yep. And pride.
Pride. Others should see Lee treating me as an equal, a peer, next in line for president and CEO of the company. My colleagues ought to set aside their beliefs about the model employee and take copious notes.
Very nice. And your fear?
I fear she may be forgetting who she's dealing with.
Okay. I'm not sure what that means.
I meant it to mean like she may be, God, it sounds bad. I got a little too carried away, but she may be forgetting like how hard I've worked and the things that I've done, like the
she might not have the complete list of your talents and contributions.
Yeah, she just needs to keep it handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes.
Put it on her wall probably at home and in the office.
Hire a separate secretary to keep the record straight.
Or two.
Exactly. You're in it. Now, what about ambition?
Ambition, what do I want to happen? I want Lee to constantly refocus her efforts each time we're one-on-one on fostering my prodigal growth, to hang up on the CFO, the CEO, or the I don't know if I make time to call her, or more appropriately, immediately conference me in so they can hear what I have to say.
Wonderful. Fear?
She doesn't feel I'm as valuable as I think I am.
Yep. And security? What is it, and why do you have it?
I need Lee to snap out of it and be mindful of my sponge-like and willing mind, and be careful what she shoots at it. Basically, because I might just believe it, right? And then why is because I do what I'm asked and I do it perfectly. And if you change up to down and down to up, and which is right at like willy-nilly, it will be very difficult for me to determine, difficult to mind read the flavor of the day.
Got it. And your fear?
If you fuck up the facts, my perfect answers might be wrong even when they're right.
Yep, exactly. Personal relations?
Bosses ought to set the standard. They should know more than me, not vice versa, and they should do better.
And your fear?
My boss might be human.
All right. Yep. Gender relations?
So a real woman in power ought to be excessively vigilant and constantly on the alert so she doesn't muck it up for the rest of us.
You bet. And fear?
She's just a girl and so am I.
All right. Did you do a man in the same situation?
I did. A real man ought to be aware of the effort and giftedness it takes for a little girl to master our craft as I have.
And your fear?
I'll always be less than. So I'll always be less than, yes.
All right. So I was expecting you to say, I'll always be seen as less as, but you took it, I will always be less than. See the difference?
For sure. And I guess I put myself downwards on the
Oh,
stage.
yeah, you did. It surprised me. Yeah. Although maybe that is in fact the pattern.
The pattern?
The pattern.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know.
In my company anyway.
No, not in your company.
Oh, son of a gun.
In you, honey.
Oh, son of a gun.
Pocketbook?
Pocketbook. Nothing should interfere with, affect, or lessen my status and image in front of my peers, or my ability to know how special I am and be reminded of it all the time.
And your fear?
This is as good as it gets.
All right. So as you wrote it out, first of all, nice work, creative with a little flair and fun. That was good for you, I'm assuming. And as you wrote it and now as you read it out, what's your overall experience about your beliefs?
It just sounds very, it doesn't sound, I'm not certain who this is helping. It doesn't sound like very helpful, right?
Well, I don't know what it sounds like, but what was it for you?
For me, it was I guess it felt kind of petty. It felt kind of fearful. It felt like I kind of put myself down in a spot that I haven't felt like I.
Maybe. I mean, first of all, it's one. You may have done more, but we've only heard one. What's your sense of your healthiness concerning your expectations and beliefs?
Well, I want to say that I don't really believe these things. However,
I know you want to, but you can't, can you?
No, I'm not
But you're
really.
uncomfortable with it, and that's what the humor is all about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put my hand down.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got my review coming up, and I figure I better just get this stuff all out because I don't think it would go over well.
Nice. All right. You know, and I don't want to make too big of a deal out of doing one or two or even three in terms of the questions I'm asking and the bottom line that I'm implying, because I really don't mean that. I want each experience to be different, especially right now. I don't want you to come to, none of you, to come to any conclusion or see patterns, even though I've used some of the words or implied it. Do some of the work. We'll continue to do this. My sense is when you do 3 or 5 or 10, in the clarity that the last several people, almost everybody on the call has done, has seen the clarity. Once you do a number of them and you're connected to somebody in which you're discussing it, or maybe here on the call you're discussing it, you will in fact begin to really see a pattern and what is healthy and what is not healthy. Mostly what is not healthy, because that's what this revealed, at least to me anyway. All right, thanks.
So I have a question about how much we're supposed to be doing right now. So I've done the 3, but are we supposed to go on? Are we supposed to redo the ones we've already done?
No, don't redo anything unless you're still in practice mode. But it's not about getting them, quote, tidy or even correct. It's about just having an experience with them. I'm so glad you asked the question. Move on. We're engaged in people's work in terms of confirming and clarifying, but now it's move on. Do what you can do. Plan your time to get your 3rd column done. Absolutely. Don't hold back. As long as you're confident that you are doing it with some insight, some competency. That's what this is about, to clarify and to confirm. And that's why we've recommended the step guide and or the small groups, so that you don't have to wait for the once a week and the large group, that you can find some time to play blacksmith, hammering it out on the anvil with other people's experience in between the workshops. You know,
Right.
Thank you for that question. That was a pivotal question at this time.
Before, I think you just clarified the assignment when you were talking to the last person. I just wanted to be sure we knew what we were going to do next week. You talked about going over the list and checking off the deep resentments. And you just want us to continue with column 3. Is there anything else?
Thank you for that. You know, I hadn't thought about this, but you're prompting it because people are kind of getting some traction with this. I don't want to leave early, but I do want to continue getting the full picture. So why don't we do read the last paragraph on resentment on page 67. It's the next assignment. After it's the assignment on column 4. I won't spend any time looking for it. It's the assignment on column 4. Just read that. If you want to look at the worksheet, you're welcome to. But I will go over the worksheet next week so that people have an idea as to where we're going. No, thank you for bringing that up this way. It helped me think about it now that I've seen what the people are doing. You've got some traction with it. Yeah.
Are these resentments that we're listing, are these necessarily going to appear on our 9th step?
Well, if there's harm.
Okay.
See, there's a misinformation in the rooms that everything on the 4th step ends up on the 8th step. That's just wrong. I mean, that's just dead wrong. There's no interpretation necessary there. Everything in the 4th step doesn't end up in the 8th step because we don't create harm with some of our fears. We don't create harm with some of our resentments.
Right.
And the 8th step is all about harm, so no. But on the other hand, there's a whole category of dishonesty that will end up on the 8th step, even though it's not as clear in the 4th step. But it will be when I bring you through the 4th step, because those are some of the concluding remarks, because I was a thief. I didn't have any resentment or fear or sex involved with you, but if you had what I wanted, I took it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful clarification. Thank you. And it was implied in a couple of the conversations that we had. So thank you for making it very visible. Yeah. All right. Let's pray that transformation prayer. I was going to shorten it, but let's not. Let's just do what we do here and pray the prayer of St. Francis. We can afford the 1 minute it might take. Lord, make me a channel of your peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.